Remembered. So. The meeting has been called to order. We've had the book discussion, and now it is time for public comment. If you would like to speak for public comment, each person has 3 minutes, and it's their time alone and cannot be passed on to anyone else's time. If you have concerns or comments about individuals, those are not appropriate during public comment or comments about during public comment times. So please don't say anything that would identify circumstances or a person or a group of people directly by what you say. Be respectful. People on Zoom are welcome to join the public comment by putting their name in the chat. Look at that. Look at those pictures up there. So do we have somebody on the chat? Oh, okay. Public comment. Would anybody like to make a comment? All right, then we will go on. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Or could we have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
Maybe this is the right time to say this, but I did not get a chance to fine tooth the financial statements this month.
Okay.
I'm hoping that we can defer to the next meeting.
Okay.
For October 2024 financial reports.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, I need a motion to approve the agenda with that deferment of the financial reports.
I'll move to approve the agenda with that deferment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, administrative report. Are we doing the referendum piece first?
I believe so. Do we have anyone in the Zoom, Cody?
Yeah, we have Charmaine's one,
Oh, that's it?
and we have the people from.
Oh, yeah. We want. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, the others. Is there a way we can connect to them? They're going to be presenting. I believe Megan.
Yeah. Do you want me to, present the slideshow?
That would be great. Can you all hear us? We don't have any volume.
Give me one moment.
Did you say Charmaine is on there?
Yeah.
Charmaine, if you can hear us, can you unmute yourself and just say something and let us know whether you can hear? That's not a good sign.
Testing. This is Megan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Hey, Megan.
Hey, everyone.
We have a new sound system, so we're working out the kinks.
Well, I can hear you very well.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing the screen. I will get started. We have a quick presentation to talk through. You passed the referendum, now what? So it really starts with congratulations. It is an awesome accomplishment, and you passed with over 60%, which is huge. And a lot of that, yes, we communicated the referendum plan. However, that's really built off of the foundation of the communication and trust and transparency that you've had with the district between the district and the community for years. So the success came from a lot of the pride, the Castlegar pride that's already in the community. So congratulations. And we'll talk about next steps and where do we go from here. So we can go the next 2 slides. Kevin, we'll start with finance.
Well, hello, everyone. And again, I will second what Megan has already said. Congratulations. I'm really so happy for you that all of your hard work was rewarded with a yes vote. But I know that one of the things that you're probably wondering is like, what are the next steps with regard to financing? How does that unfold? From a real high level standpoint, I wanted to just give you a couple of milestones that are likely going to occur over the next few months. So November and December will be a time when I'll be working primarily with Denise and with Janet, walking through what the plan of finance is generally and coming up with a more tailored plan of finance that we will bring to the school board, hopefully in January, which will be much more specific in terms of the direction that we'll be going. Between January and February, we'll begin to get that bond issue pulled together to market to investors. And at that point in time, probably end of January, beginning of February, we'll bring a parameters resolution to you, which will be a resolution that kicks off the start of the process. And then we'd be in the bond market marketing to investors in February and March with the ideal closing, meaning that you would have money in some of the referendum proceeds in your coffers in spring of 2025. And that's well ahead of the construction date. But now that we've authorized the borrowing, you can begin investing the money once it's borrowed, and the earnings can be used for the project or to offset debt service. So from a very high level, those are the next steps, but there are a lot of pieces that will fall into place over that period of time. So more to follow, but rest assured, we'll be working on it specifically with Denise and Janet over the next month and a half. Any questions?
Questions from anyone?
No, I think we're good.
I think we're
thank you.
good. Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, so where do we go from here on the project timeline schedule? Now we move from pre-referendum into design. So Kevin will spend a few minutes talking through what the design process looks like and how the design process engages individuals in the district and staff members. So he'll talk a little bit about that. Then we're planning tentatively to bid in fall of 2025. So if you follow school elections, there were 58 questions on the ballot on November 5th. 51 of those passed. So huge support for school districts across the state, which is great. However, that means there's a lot of work out there right now. So over $2.8 billion of funding for Wisconsin schools passed in November. This timeline that is currently set up, will help that situation for the fact that we're planning to bid in fall of 2025. Now, when we start construction, will really be dependent on how long lead time materials take and temperature, weather, all of those items. All of this is determined in pre-construction design. So we know one of the district's goals and one of our goals is to get work started as early as possible, but we're going to start evaluating the pros and cons to starting early and starting in spring of 2026. All schedules have us bidding in fall of 2025. We just want to weigh the pros and cons of what does that look like. With a lot of your building systems driving the schedule, we need to ensure that you have a heating system all winter long. So once we start diving into that, we'll understand exactly what that schedule looks like, but that's what Kevin will talk about how we start the design process and what that entails, in which our team will continue to build a construction schedule based on design. Big picture, we're looking for completion at the latest of December 2027. So a phased construction process through 2 summers. However, like I said, we're looking for ways to expedite that, but that will all be a focus in pre-construction or design. Next slide, please. All right, and our team grows. So on the pre-referendum efforts from Myron, you have heard from Megan and Becca on the communication side of things. Andrew was our principal in charge. He's been there a few times. And then Toby was our estimator. So he was the guy who was putting all the numbers together behind the scenes. So when we transition now into what we call pre-construction, but it's the design process, we bring in extended resources for Myron. So Lee Spindler will be leading the pre-construction design efforts. He is our customer executive. Basically, what that means is he specializes in pre-construction design. So we know that we have $14.43 million to spend overall as a district. That's what your voters approved. So Lee will be working with the design team so that he's providing real-time estimates so that you're making decisions based on accurate numbers. Also, in conjunction, he is working through a phasing schedule. Again, back to that project timeline. He'll be working with the district to understand what spaces do you need and when, and how can we phase construction in an active school while we know school has to happen and construction happens on the side. So working through what that looks like. And then additionally, he'll start talking with the teams about lead time. So there are some mechanical things that are out there several weeks or half a year more these days. And so making sure that if things are identified in your plans, that we're creating opportunities to get those early so that they're meeting our construction schedules. So that's Lee's responsibility in the pre-construction portion of it. And then we have John Lottie, who will also be joining us. And really, he is our constructability expert. What his job is to come back. Lee can use him as a resource when it comes to return on investment of materials, constructability, those kinds of things. So he's really just a resource for Lee to use, and he'll also bridge into construction. So he'll be managing the project managers when we get into construction. And the project manager identified is John Younger, and he is really the guy who's doing the day-to-day things, managing budget and schedule day-to-day. And then there'll be one project superintendent who is not identified that will be in, that's not identified yet, that would be in the construction portion of it. So your on-site person managing the people and the process during construction. So that's kind of how the Myron team evolves over the next few steps, and we grow, but Megan and Becca will always be there. So we continue to remain in the meetings as a communications expert. So that's a little bit about our team. Kevin, do you want to go into the ISG team?
Sure, and you'll have to apologize. My voice is a little shot today, but on the ISG side, a lot of the, or I should say many of the engineers that were part of the original assessment, they're going to come back into the project now and be involved in the design and engineering process. You'll see here we did add another individual. Adam Both will be the project architect, so really focusing on a lot of the design, developing the design and a lot of the detail and coordination work. So he'll be another face that you'll see as part of meetings going forward. And really that team, as we add the additional engineers and interior designers to the project as well, we will be part of the process through design and through construction, just for consistency. So we can jump to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about the design process. And we'll go one more. So this is a graphic that we use. As you think about the process from left to right, when we began the assessment, we started identifying needs, priorities, gathered feedback, went to your community, and now we're really starting to move into the next step of the design and engineering. And so recognize we still have a lot of design influence in the process without major cost or budget impacts. So as we go through the design process, we've got flexibility, but as we get more and more detailed, then there becomes less flexible. So when we jump to really what this slide shows is that we want to make sure the district, the staff, and the community are happy with the design before shovels hit the ground, because that's where if there's late changes in the process, that's where there's budget or schedule impacts. So if we jump to the next slide, what we do here, this is a very high level schedule. So kind of like Megan talked about, we'll begin the design work, what we call pre-design phase over the next, we'll say, month and a half. Then we go into schematic design. And then likely around March, we would target doing a detailed cost estimate. So Myron does a very detailed cost estimate, probably based on, going from one pre-referendum concept drawing to maybe like 30 drawings. They would do a budget update. Then we move into design development phase. And then Myron do another budget update in June. That's where we're going to go to maybe like 100 drawings. And all that while, as we're adding more detail, getting budget checks along the way, making sure that we're staying within not only the referendum scope, but the referendum dollar values. The two other things I'd like to touch on is, and this is a very simplified graphic, but the two red boxes you see on the bottom, what we call those are visioning labs. Those are roughly when we think we'd want to have some very intense meetings with staff and users that are part of the project scope. So thinking of the office area, the entrance, the capital maintenance, HVAC systems, finishes, all those sorts of things. We want to have some very intentional meetings with those groups, get their input, make sure they're really happy with the design, because again, we want to catch their feedback while we have a lot of flexibility. And then the other thing that we like to show on here is the very last row, and that's core team meetings. So that's where we suggest that we continue having ongoing meetings, often every other week, with the district administration, so district leadership, on where we are in the process, upcoming meetings. Maybe there's some pieces of information that we need to get. And so we will continue to have those touch points with the district leadership. And then as we get major milestones, we're going to come back to the school board as we get budget updates, feedback from staff, and share all that information with you to see, is the board happy with the direction? Is there any questions? Is really a great way for checks and balances throughout the process. Any questions related to that?
The only question I had was how you were going to involve the staff, and I think you covered that.
Yeah, the only thing I'll just add to that is we're gonna actually jump to the next slide. It kind of ties into that. What we do now is we take a detailed look through the project scope. So again, think about the entrance, restroom updates, finishes, HVAC systems and such. And now we're going to look at that scope and say, all right, district leadership, here's areas that we think we should get some user or staff, student or community input. Do you think we're missing anything? So just know that that's something that we're going to work on, putting that list together. That'll kind of define the maybe 6, 7, 8 different groups. In Drummond, I want to say we have like 12 different groups, just based on what the project scope is. So that's something we start to work on now. Come back to the district leadership and say, hey, here's the groups that we think we should meet with. Who do you think makes sense to be in those groups? And then we start to figure out, what do potential dates look like, when we can spend some time, get their feedback, and really move the design forward. So I will pause there and see if there's any other questions.
Will community people be involved in that portion of it? Or
I think,
just staff?
well, it's something that we'll review with the district leadership, I think, based on each of the different project scope areas. If there's some that we say, hey, we think we've got someone in our community that's really passionate about this or something here, totally fine with us. It's really just comes down to what's the right approach and the right feedback and people that we need to involve in the process. Any other questions on the design side? This is
questions?
this is not my new voice going forward. This is a temporary thing. So
Prove it.
I think we're
Alright,
good here.
If there are no questions, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so the stuff I want to cover about next steps is we want to continue to engage your community. We really were knocking on their doors, sending them mailers, engaging them in any way we knew how before to kind of convince them of the needs of the school. We don't want that communication to stop now that there is a project. We want to keep that going so they know what's happening with their dollars and their school. So some part of our strategy is we provide a new logo, which is a project update logo. So you'll see lots as you know, couple of years of the project progresses, there'll be different outreach maybe to neighbors if there's a like a change in driving patterns or parking patterns, and we want to be a good neighbor. So look for communications like that as we get into construction later on. But more locally, like right now, we'll update the website. We still want your website to be a resource for your community. What did I vote on? What was the project? They can go back and look. But really the landing page to be what's happening right now, and then different things to look for in the future. We also want to, you know, celebrate community milestones. This picture here is a groundbreaking ceremony at a different district. We want to do that. We want to invite your public to come and see the groundbreaking and be excited for the project. There's like maybe 2 or 3 different ways to invite people into the space, especially the most interesting one, I think, is the ribbon cutting when they can come tour the new spaces. So that's, you know, in a while, but just know that we don't drop communications. We still find it just as important, even though they're already buying into the plan. We find that super important to keep your community engaged and knowing what's happening with their dollars in your school. The last part of that is student engagement. We do want your especially middle and high school kids to be involved with the design project process as well as construction when it gets to that point. There are lots of ways that Myron and probably ISG knows, you know, ways to get kids involved, to see different careers, to just open their eyes and really invoke, you know, pride in their school because they saw the, you know, the evolved plan and then the new spaces. So look for that as that's coming up too. You go to the next slide. Okay, so like I said, there's many ways, and this is an example of a district in the area. These are all the ways we engaged after the referendum, during construction, product update newsletters, as well as the Good Neighbors situation. And then, you know, if the public needs to know about different bus patterns, parking, drive patterns, we will do a, you know, a mailer to the neighborhood. That's important to us too. We want, you know, especially you all at the school board level, we want you to be as educated as possible because we know that you're the, you know, one of the main communicators. People know you as the school people, so they're going to ask you questions about what's happening and we want you to have educated and great answers for them. But we do know that community, parents, staff, student, and press are important to the, you know, the next 2 phases of this project, and we are going to continue to be your communication helpers on that. Next slide. Oh, that's it. Yeah, surprise. Do you guys have any questions for us on the communication part, or for Kevin, or for Kevin, or for Megan?
I'm not seeing anybody having any questions. Thank you to all of you for all of this. It's been great working with all of you.
And we're not done yet, right?
Gosh.
Just
No,
got started.
not even close. But you got us through the first phase, and that's great.
Yeah, you guys are great to work with. So let's keep it going. Excellent. All right, if there are no questions, we will log off and you guys can finish your meeting.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks everybody.
Bye. All right, we'll move on to school reports, and Angie, do you want to go first?
Sure. So you read my report with all the great fall athletic awards. There was one person missed on that list for cross country. Linnea Shackelford also earned honorable mention. So I wanted to bring that up so that you saw that. We did get that on our Facebook. One other really cool thing, there's been a lot of really cool things that have happened, but I wanted to mention, we had a student, a senior, who tried out for the all-state mixed choir. And very few kids are actually selected for it, and he was. And so he got to take, was it maybe almost a week down where they were having the WMEA state conference. And they worked on practicing and getting the choir together and then performing for that thing. So that was a very high honor for him to have. He was super excited about it, and so it's going to open up just all kinds of opportunities for him. He actually is thinking about becoming a music teacher as he moves forward, so that was really cool for him. So I wanted to bring that up, that we did have a kid qualify for the all-state choir, which is awesome.
And who was it?
Henry Means. Yep. So he was super excited about it. He had a good time. Yep, we had homecoming, which was awesome. I shout out to the staff volleyball team because that was the first time we ever won that many games. We were pretty excited. So that was so, we added some really cool, fun things at homecoming that we want to see continue happening. We added in the powder puff this year. From my understanding, that's not really happened in the past before. And it was so fun to watch the girls out there just having a ball. So it's definitely something we're gonna tweak it a little bit for next year. Like we want to do maybe they call it the toilet bowl games, so like not concessions, that's not the right word. Like not the championship one, but the other, anyway. So when we're like the two teams that lost play each other, that one. Words, and then take the championship game and have that maybe at halftime of the football game instead of playing it that night, so they get to play maybe in front of the bigger crowd. So there's some things that we're talking about for that as well. So that was really fun. Youth Apprenticeship Month, so we keep posting things about youth apprenticeship and the kids that we have in there, so it's really cool. Just add on talking about, you know, you were talking about in the book club about the learning and the learning targets and the things that we're doing to get better. The last couple of months, the staff here at the middle school, high school has been working really hard at learning about learning targets themselves, the how, the why. This next week, we're gonna be doing the how do you use it in a class, and then have time for them to just be able to build really good learning targets. So we're really excited about that. And we've been working on this year about having a consistent writing structure across the building so that all kids are learning the same structure, so that no matter what class they go into, it's the same. They know the process, they know what they're looking for, which we're really hoping will improve our writing scores quite a bit. So that's what the staff has been working on, just so you have an update on that. Otherwise, it's been pretty low key for October, November. It's been pretty nice.
Did you follow up with the student that was here last time about the vending machine?
I did talk to him. I've been looking into some of the laws. We're gonna have to, if it's something that we want to move forward, which I'll bring you some more information in December once I kind of have like, if I can find prices or things like that. Told them that we probably aren't gonna have an investor buy those machines for us. I'm not about having somebody come in and try to make a profit off our kids. So we talked about that a little bit. So I'm still kind of trying to dig into like, what's the cost of that? How would we work that in? Like, would our food service have to take that over, or would that be a club that would take that over? So we've been kind of going back and forth about that. So in December, I should be able to bring more information back about that.
And I'm hoping that you were also talking about healthy options.
Yes,
in the vending
yes,
machine.
there were some things that he brought up that he wanted, and I was like, yeah, that's okay. We'll have like carrots or like whatever it is, that depending on this type of vending machine that we would be looking at getting. But it would only be healthy options, not like he wanted, you know, like Cliff bars, and I'm like, we'll have to look into that. So we'll dig a little bit more about what we can put in that would be a healthy option that either a club or a food service would be able to run.
Okay, thank you.
All right, at the elementary, we just released our first ever electronic report cards. And so the exciting thing is that the staff, the teachers felt like it was a really great switch. So it saved a lot of time without losing any pieces of it. So it still has all the standards, it still has the individualized comments, but just the process went much quicker. So that was really exciting. We then got some really positive parent feedback as well. But we don't have, not all families have access to it yet. So that's the part where we're tracking right now, just make sure that everybody can log in, can get access to it, and then how to make sure that we can get that set up. So it's been a great process. I think it'll help in the long run. It's what the middle school, high school uses, so we'll make that process smoother. It's also a nice way to access forms at the beginning of the year, food service, and just kind of everything's through Skyward. And so I think it's gonna make everybody's life easier moving forward.
So how do most people have access?
Prior to the elementary report cards, no, probably about half were probably utilizing Skyward Family Access. Everybody at the middle school, high school has access, so that they're making the big transition in 7th grade, so.
But how many families do they, basically people have computers at home now? Is there?
Most, I think I'm thinking about the middle school, high school level, I think we maybe have 4 or 5 families that don't have internet at their house. So every family has a login to Skyward Family Access login. Sometimes we have to reset that for them because they forget it, but they can all log in, they can all see food accounts, they can see grades, they can see report cards, so every family has access. We often run a report to see who doesn't, and then we email or mail those things home to them so that they can see them.
Okay.
In addition to the report card, that big change, we also have parent-teacher conferences coming up next week. That was something that Parent Advisory Committee had provided some feedback on, really wishing for that opportunity to meet one-on-one with the teachers, and then designate a separate time to have a student-led conferences where the kids can show off all the cool things they're learning. So we'll provide both of those things, but they'll be in 2 separate settings at 2 separate times. At the Early Learning Center, we keep chipping away at continuous improvement efforts. And so going through that Young Star process, I give an update on that in the board report, continue to identify our strengths and then areas of growth as we continue to improve our program. In December, at the very beginning of December, we'll go through some transitions as we add more students to each of the classrooms. And so then we'll also need an additional staff member. And so we will be expanding a little bit within the month, and I can give another update on that in December. And then Cascade Kids continues to roll along pretty smoothly now that we've got the school year underway. Curriculum Council, we've got 2 new courses that we're looking at through Curriculum Council right now, both related to band. And so we will share those with the board in December. And then also making a few adjustments to Family and Consumer Science. That would not be new courses necessarily, just adjustments to the current courses, but we'll still keep you up to date on that. And then really the Curriculum Council has been focused on ELA right now. So with the passing of Act 20, we're ensuring that we're putting all those protocols in place. We will be sharing a lot of that information with families at parent-teacher conferences. And really, it isn't required yet until January. And I think that the state is realizing very quickly that the timelines and the requirements that they put in place might not be reasonable or feasible for school districts throughout the state. So they're actually making some adjustments as other schools like us pilot it now in the fall, realize what are some of the strengths and benefits and drawbacks to it, and then make some adjustments. So I anticipate the state of Wisconsin will continue to change that. We're going to continue to move forward with what we know as best practices. I'm confident we can meet the requirements, and then as they make those adjustments, we'll continue to adjust as well. We are looking at some different resources perhaps for next year. That's part of Act 20 is really strong universal resources. So elementary team is trying to explore some of those universal resources. Middle school, high school is looking at possible replacements for Achieve 3000 that would still meet that same goal, ensure the same increase in proficiency that we're seeing in our state assessments, but be interesting and applicable to those grades. And then just to kind of circle back to the Parent Advisory Committee, in addition to the parent-teacher conferences, we also talked about how to support students at or above proficiency level. We did look through our state assessment results, and so we get the individual student results over the summer into the fall, and so those are going to go home to families. And then soon the school report cards will be released in a couple weeks here. And we've seen a really nice increase in the number of students who are advanced in both math and ELA district-wide. And so that conversation keeps coming up in lots of different areas like Curriculum Council, Parent Advisory Committee, and we're seeing that change in proficiency, which is exciting. And then finally, we just talked about those state issued report cards. Of course, they aren't released yet, but we did talk about change in data, what that looks like, celebrated the achievement of those goals that the School Improvement Committee had set forth multiple years ago and continue to update and expand over time. And then I just explained too a little bit about some of the changes in the school report cards this year. I think the board is probably up to date on this, but the forward exam was changed last spring to reflect the new ELA and math standards. We as a district have been teaching those for several years, and then the exam finally adjusted to show those. When they make a change like that, then they'll also change the cut scores that associate with them, right? Change the test, change the score, as well as some of the labels and some of the different terms and language that they use. When they make changes like that, they sometimes will it'll kind of affect how things are calculated. And so there are some changes to how the school report card is calculated this year. And so we can go more into depth on that when we give our highlight in December. But there are some very specific calculations just for this year because of that change, and that will impact some of those overall scores. Yeah, I think that's kind of the update. That was what we covered at the advisory committee, and we're happy to share that data as those report cards are released.
You have the data on here for the testing for the elementary. Did you see the same types of results in the high school, or?
Yeah, we actually are gonna work on a document that has elementary, that one was because that was shared at parent advisory committee. We've got elementary, middle school, high school, and district with that same table.
Mhm.
And so because we've hand calculated those, we can share those however and whenever we want to. And it's just really exciting. Yeah, we see a very similar growth, a big increasement in its students, percentage who are advanced, and a big decrease in the students who are below basic.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Very nice.
Yeah, yeah, well, we can get that one out, the other board of schools soon.
Any questions, comments? All right, thank you very much. Yes.
All right, well, first of all, I just want to, congratulate the board and the community and the staff all about the referendum and the success. It's really exciting, and, we had a great update today, and we'll continue to keep everyone informed, at our meetings as well as on our website as the next phases begin. And long-range planning took the month off because it is just sort of this transition time, and there was the opportunity for the board to come here, for Myron to come here and ISG and Baird to present to all of you. So we'll meet in December and start digging into the next pieces and then have an update for you in December as a board. Also would like to thank Tina Sokinick for a very generous donation that she gave to the school district. Just want to recognize that and really appreciate the gift toward our school. Ivy went over the report card release, which is next week on Tuesday, the 19th. And like she mentioned, in December, we'll have an update for the board with the results, some things to celebrate, some things that we're going to be working on as a result of that data, as well as just overarching data work that's happening in the district. We celebrated Veterans Day on Monday with a really great assembly that was coordinated by the middle school, high school, and Andrew Grimm was significant in setting that up. And it was my first Veterans Day assembly here, and I was really impressed by the quality of what was shared. And it was just a great day to honor the significant sacrifices that so many have given to protect our country. Outside work, garden work, we have put to bed all of the gardens, and I believe there's a skating rink that's starting to be discussed and created at the elementary. We were contacted today by Bayfield Nordic about creating a cross-country loop around the elementary, and so we're going to meet up there in early December and kind of figure out what that will look like. So I think some really fun winter activities to look forward to, as well as our composting project, which I wasn't sure if I gave an update that we're going to be continuing that work. We had a trial through the end of October, and the students were so successful in adapting to that change and now are really independent. I was at the elementary this week and observing, and it's so sweet. The one student was going to put the napkin, and they were like, no, it's compost, put it in the compost. And so they walked it over, and I thought, they've got it. They've got each other's back, and they figured it out. And it's just such a great way to continue a sustainable practice that they can take into their own homes and into their lives in the future. So I'm really excited that we're doing that. And then one final addition in the financial folder, we did include the ELC report. So we created a budget document. It's been updated from first quarter, so you can see our finances through the ELC. We're working on a similar report for food service. And then our goal is to do the same, like through maybe athletics, and kind of build upon additional clarity and kind of quarterly reporting in different funds. So more to come on that.
Perfect. Thank you. And we're going to skip over the financial reports unless there's something that you want to point out, Denise, if there's anything No, okay.
No, everything looked in order as always, and
Okay.
the reports are there for all of you to look through.
Okay. Consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have a comment. Can I say it?
Depends on what it is, I guess.
It's not to be discussed. It's just a comment. I would just like to thank Betsy Carrier for all her time in the district and everything she's done for the district and the program that she built.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion items. Do you read that too? To start?
Did everybody see the talking points? The only thing that I wanted to ask on that is the, Project Aware. And is our school using that? Not that I know.
Not that I know
No.
of, no.
I think we should tap into that.
Explain that to us again. Is that the,
Same thing that the district down the road did a number of years ago? The wellness center and
Not really,
a little different?
a little different,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, they have a certain amount of hours to use. And there's different tiers. So, each school could be, utilizing their network services and in-house resources. And some of us, listening to other school districts, that's really been helpful for, mental health. So.
is there a contact at CISA that you have that?
It's Rebecca Betts,
Oh, sure.
yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of schools that are using it, tapping into those resources. One of the other things that we discussed during the meeting was the use of cell phones in the school districts. And that was a really interesting conversation with all the different districts that were there. Because, there were 4 that reported that they have a no cell phone policy. So, and they just went cold turkey. And they have no cell phones, period. They don't have them at lunch, between classes.
How'd that go?
They said that they were doing well. I think it was Drummond was the one that they said they had one parent call about it. But they have very strict rules that, after, if they are caught with them, it's right away, the parent comes in to get it. It's not this 3 strikes. And they've noticed that a lot of students, because of that, are taking more elective courses than sitting on their phone in study hall.
Oh, interesting.
So they wanted to know if we had any plans.
So I would say it has definitely been a topic of conversation. I will openly admit that coming in as a new superintendent, that was just not something, I was ready to tackle with our administrative team in July, but it has been an ongoing conversation. And actually there are more and more districts adopting that policy. And at the state level, there's also conversations happening. So I would not doubt, we do have a new policy, middle school, high school, I think pretty solid.
Yeah, no cell phone.
No cell phones at the elementary level. So some better structures this year, but ongoing conversations about is what we're doing enough? And is it really effective?
So do they,
new policy?
What was that?
What is the new policy?
Oh, yeah, Angie can share a little bit. With
They're not allowed to have them during class time. Lunchtime they can. If the teacher sees it, it gets taken and brought to the office, and then we do have a 3 strike, like First time they come and get it, we have a conversation. Second time, it's a different conversation. Third time, parent has to come and get it. And then other types of things happen after that. And every time after that, parents have to come and get it. We'll set up a meeting if we need to, that kind of stuff. It's actually gone really, really well so far. Like our 8th grade class out of the entire year so far as we had 4 kids taken, had their phones taken away, only 4. Certain other grades have a few more, but it's not more than per grade. I'd say there's like 8 total per grade. So it's actually gone really well, and kids are keeping their phones away and not using them. They know that they can use their computers for things. The teachers have commented like, oh my gosh, it's almost like teaching back in the 2000s when people didn't, couldn't get on their phones all the, so they really appreciate it. And we're seeing kids doing a lot more work. They're more attentive and more engaged in what they're doing, but still a few slip ups every once in a while with kids. And I talk to them and we work through it and work with parents on it.
What about the elementary?
Oh, they have to keep them in their backpacks or lockers, cubbies. Yep.
Also not even in the.
Yep.
And that's what the high school do, they keep them in their backpacks or?
They'll keep in their backpacks. They just can't, they're not allowed to have them out.
Okay.
So they're at the high school level, there's a little bit more of an addiction issue. They'll keep them in their back pockets. They're just not allowed to use them. And if they're found to use them, the teachers will pull them or tell them to take it to the office. And they usually come down and they're just like, and then they go back to class because they know what the rules are.
Some schools even banned smartwatches
Mhm.
because they can use those
Oh, yeah.
or other Bluetooth devices.
And we labeled it personal communication devices, so it very well could be a watch if that becomes a problem as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, when you take the ACT now,
You can't
Yeah.
have a smartwatch or anything.
Right.
before you go.
But I thought it was so interesting about how their elective courses have increased. There's less students in study hall. Grades have gone up.
That's awesome.
So nice to
I
hear.
believe it.
Yeah.
I did have Amy from Superior share her cell phone information because they're a district that did that, so. So it's been, but it would definitely have to be something that we all have clear clarity around and are all hands on deck to do it well and do it right, so thank you for sharing that.
Anything else, Julie?
No, that's it.
All right. Publication for the school board election?
Yeah, I can just talk briefly that Heidi has sent the notice for the type A notice that we will be holding a school board election on Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. And we do have one individual, is that the wrong date?
Oh, I'm sending it tomorrow.
Oh, you're sending it tomorrow?
And needed Julie's signature.
Oh, okay, yeah, but it's not due till November 26th, so we have plenty of time. It will be published in the November 24th version of the Daily Press, and Tina Bikinic is up for re-election, so we have one seat that will be open.
All right, thank you. Individual action items. The second reading of policy 6423.
I move to approve the second reading of policy 6423.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
I move to approve the band and choir trip to Florida, Disney World, March 28th through April 3rd.
Did you have anything you want to say?
Oh, they are.
The what?
Yep.
The dates have shifted?
Yep.
Okay.
That's a good thing, right?
Do you know what they are?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
Would you like me to speak?
Yeah,
on
sure,
this?
you.
Yep.
Should I stand? Should I stay seated?
You do whatever you want.
This is Forrest, by the way.
Hello, everybody. So,
Welcome
I'm
to the meeting.
Forrest Mann. I'm the new band director, replacing the esteemed Rick Treppa. And I attended, I'm an alumni from the school too. So, just to get the dates correct on the books, so June 9th to June 14th.
Yeah. Very cool. I read that.
Because we, just with, the approval going back and me kind of dragging the feet on thinking about whether we should do this my first year, we kind of missed some deadlines in getting the prices right. So we want to make sure to to make sure our students are getting their money's worth, right? And so pushing into June gives us more time to fundraise and more, and the costs are much less than if we kind of pushed ahead with the March, with the spring dates, even though I know that a lot of families would rather go during spring break. So, you know, just kind of give some background. I think Ivy and I went on all the same trips. So when I was in high school, we went to Chicago with the band, freshman year, and then Hawaii, sophomore year with the show choir, and then junior year Disney, we marched in Disney with Mr. Sepa, and then senior year we went on a Caribbean cruise with the show choir. Yep. Our school has a history of taking kids on trips. And, you know, the mental health piece was brought up earlier. I took a kid on her first plane ride when I took kids to Pasadena for the Rose Parade. And you should have seen like the mom, just like, you gotta take care of my baby, you know? And for her to kind of be a little freaked out, and then she came back just so much more confident after having had this experience with her friends in a safe way, seeing a little bit of the world and being away from home. Can really kind of build a kid up. And I would say that the same thing is true for me, you know, going on trips in high school too. So I think that's one of the big reasons I like to travel with students, is just seeing that growth and seeing the bonding that happens between kids. Because it's a different thing. It's one thing to go to Disney, you know, with your family or, you know, with your kids. It's another thing to go with your friends when they're in high school, which is a very special thing, for me. And so, right, that's there's that traveling goal, that self-esteem goal. And then also we're gonna take part in the Disney trailers workshop, which, the students, so there's a separate instrumental and a separate band one. And, oh man, I actually could have shown some of this thing. Maybe I'll share this another time, but, you learn the music there with a Disney professional. And so the last time I took students to Disney, the band professional, he was like a Disney bassoon player who played in the parks all the time. And he had some experience as a band director, as a public educator. And so he was the clinician that worked with us. And they do a whole shtick on like, what does it mean to be excellent? And you can see so many things are so particular in the Disney parks and with their music and their films and stuff. But that kind of rubs off on the kids and on the clinic. And then you record the piece that you're working on. And right then, they kind of do the shtick, and then they show your audio recording with the trailer. And you get to have your copy. So I have my old students' copies of those, but there's like, you can't like post them on Facebook because it's like proprietary. But you know, it's cool to see. And then the choir one was very similar, but they learned it so much faster because you just have to learn it by kind of by ear, and it's tunes that you've been hearing a lot. So the choir one was really fun too, and they did all the sound effects, so that was a lot of fun too. So so there's that, also that music education piece to it. And we're hoping to go to see the Cirque du Soleil, which is a great musical performance at Disney Springs. And so, you know, that's kind of the motivation behind going. Besides those two things, the number one thing, right, is safety. You know, making sure that the kids are able to be physically safe, but also safe enough to enjoy the trip, even though it can always be kind of interesting. You know, kids don't necessarily sleep the greatest on those trips and eat the right kind of foods, but to kind of usher them through, you know, that the weekend and enjoying most of it or all of it, or being able to be safe in their discomfort if they're uncomfortable at times. So that's part of the learning process. I would say that that's the main stuff. I have more details, but I'm happy to answer questions if you would like.
Any questions from anyone? Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
It's very exciting. Can you amend your motion to change the dates?
Yeah, I'll, move to approve the band and choir trip to Florida, Disney World, June 9th through June 14th, 2025.
Second.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Have fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Steve?
I move to approve the 2025 annual meeting date of October 23rd, 2025.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carried. D,
I move to approve the school board delegate and alternate for the WASD delegate assembly.
and we have Tina signed up for that? And not, no alternate at this point in time?
Seriously, the assembly is amazing. And have you ever done one? No, no, it is like
Yeah.
super intense and just really lovely.
No. Okay.
No takers.
They don't go together.
Not a very good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Did we get a second?
Yes, I think we did.
I don't think
Have it written
so.
down.
Oh,
There
sorry.
was no second. I'll second it.
Okay.
You were trying to.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anyway. Look on that. All right, E,
I need to approve the 2024-2027 school district of Washburn library plan.
second,
I'll second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We will now be going into executive session, so thank you for coming, everybody. And if I can have a motion to be going into the session,
Move into executive session?
both sessions? Is there a second
I'll second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All righty.
You went on the trip